Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. Try and get everyone's attention. As a reminder, um, per Contra Costa Health Services requirements, masks are required indoor for all persons, regardless of vaccination status. Um, we have masks. Oops, no. I fully acknowledge that people have strong feelings about mask wearing. I recognize that not everyone agrees with the mask requirements, and I understand your frustration. I would like to sincerely thank everyone in attendance for your cooperation in wearing a mask during today's meeting while in this building. The meeting is being live streamed on the district's YouTube channel, and a link to the recording has been posted to the district's website. So I'd like to introduce the board members, Vice President Ken Mintz,
Good evening.
Clerk Rachel Hurd,
Hello.
board members Laura Bratt,
Good evening.
and Shelley Clark,
Good evening.
and our student board member Ronit Batra,
Hi.
and I am your board president, Susanna Ordway. Okay, our student board member can cast a preferential vote, which shall not affect the final numerical outcome of a vote, but will be recorded in the minutes. So I just wanted everyone to know that. Okay, now please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now may I have a motion? Oh, sorry. Um, about our closed session, there was no action taken in closed session. So I kind of want to report that. Acceptance of minutes. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of September 3rd and September 14, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
The motion was made by Board Member Bratt and seconded by Board Member Clark. Call out vote. Student Board Member Batra.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
Aye.
Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Mintz.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye,
The motion passes 5-0.
thank you. May I now have the motion to accept the open session agenda?
So moved.
Second.
The motion was made by Board Member Mintz and seconded by Board Member Hurd. Call out vote. Student Board Member Batra.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Member Bratt.
Aye.
Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Mintz.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, approval of consent agenda. The consent items are considered routine in nature and are approved by combining them into a single vote. A member of the board or a member of the public may request that a consent item be removed from the consent agenda to be considered and voted on separately. Is there a request to move any items from consent?
President Ordney, I wanted to make an amendment to 12.13, consideration of approval of the local indicators 21-22 LCAP dash assessment. We found two errors that I just wanted to correct on page 163 of the packet. In the blue box, we reference the San Ramon Valley PTA President's Meeting, and the appropriate title should be the San Ramon Valley Council of PTA Meetings. So we made that correction. And on page 164 of 181, we clarified in the last sentence where we're speaking around the California High Integrated Makers Education Chime description that 2 of our middle schools, 6th grade students participate in Chime, not our entire 6th grade student body. So I just wanted to notate that.
Okay, great.
President Ordway, I also have an amendment this evening to item 12.9, Williams Uniform Complaint Quarterly Report. We inadvertently checked the wrong box and said that we had no complaints during the first quarter of the 21-22 school year, and we actually had one that was submitted on the very last day of the quarter. So we put the check in the right box, and that information is now accurate.
Great. Okay, thank you both.
With
Okay.
that, can I move to accept the consent agenda?
Second.
The motion was made by Board Member Hurd and seconded by Board Member Mintz. Call out vote. Student Board Member Batra. Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Bratt.
Aye.
Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Mintz.
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Great. Thank you. Okay, moving along, 9.1, Week of the School Administrator under Reports to the Board. Okay, Keith Rosinski.
Thank you, President Ordway. So good evening, trustees. It's my pleasure this evening to spend a few minutes acknowledging the incredible administrative team that we have here in the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. As you know, Education Code designates the second full week in October as Week of the School Administrator. And that's done as a means of recognizing the role and importance of leadership in our schools and in the school systems. This year, Week of the School Administrator takes place between October 10th and October 16th. Educational research has been quite consistent in demonstrating that high-quality leadership in schools is critically important to the academic achievement and enriched learning experiences of students in our schools. Oh, there we go. Almost got that, Logan. Those school site leaders, which are most often assistant principals and principals, are supported by a large network of district-level leaders comprised of classified and certificated supervisors, managers, coordinators, assistant directors, directors, executive directors, assistant superintendents, and a superintendent, all of whom strive to ensure that each student in this valley receives the very best educational experience that public education can offer. I've got displayed a few pictures of our administrative team working at this year's management retreat in July. Who is that guy there on the bottom right?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. All right. Here's one more picture. It is in honor of all of these leaders that we acknowledge, celebrate, and thank them with this recognition for all that they do each and every day, year in and year out, on behalf of students throughout the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keith. Okay, 9.2, Public Comment for Non-Agenda Items. Public comment will be limited to no longer than 3 minutes, and the board cannot discuss any items not on the agenda for this meeting. The views expressed during public comment are those of the individual speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views of the board or district staff. The district believes in an inclusive, welcoming, and safe environment for its meetings for all of our community. The board respects each individual's rights to express ideas and opinions. Pursuant to applicable law and board policy, the board will not prohibit public criticism of the board or district. We kindly ask that when making public comments, you refrain from the use of profanity, exercise tolerance of others and their viewpoints, and exemplify model behavior. Please be mindful that district students may be watching. You're encouraged to address the board and the public in a respectful manner such that all those from children to adults are made to feel welcome, safe, and respected. The board will not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings. Persistent or excessive disruption by any individual or group shall be grounds to terminate the privilege of addressing the board. Okay, so I do have several public comments. Make sure I got it in right order. Okay. So the first speaker will be Courtney DeFraw.
This will be the last time that I'm coming because we are moving. You guys continuously do not listen to the community members like myself and all the other 50 parents that showed up to board meetings ago. You say that you're listening, but you aren't. So I'm not even going to speak to you. Who I'm going to speak to today is the community. I'm going to talk about something called common sense. Common sense is when 85% of the entire population is vaccinated and we're still making our 7-year-old children wear a mask for 6 hours a day. I didn't see anybody in that picture that was just shown with a mask on. So you guys all can be unmasked all day, but my 7-year-old has to wear a mask for 6 hours a day when it's 90 some degrees. I think last time there was a teacher that came and was complaining about how hot it was in the rooms. So not only are they having to wear it when it's regular temperature, but let's add 10 degrees warmer. You know, now they have to wear it when it's 90 some degrees in the classroom. All the doors are open, all the windows are open. That's unacceptable. Okay, my child has a learning disability. He does not need to be in a mask. I understand that you're following the state requirements, but you know, I don't know if it's just the diversity that we have in this area, but it is okay to voice your opinion. It is okay to go against the grain. It is okay to speak up for what you believe instead of doing everything that you're just being asked to do. Nobody is showing any leadership in this county, in this school board. Nobody is speaking up for those of us that want mask choice. If somebody wants their child to be masked, that is fine. I have no problem with that. But those people want us to be masked as well. I don't have a third generation living with my family. It's just my husband and I and our two children. So we should not have to deal with this nonsense. And again, I understand that, yeah, everybody's going to have to be vaccinated. Like, that was a real, like, we knew that that was coming, right? That's no big. So, when is the masking going to end? When everybody's vaccinated? Is it going to end then? Or are we still going to require kids to be masked after that? Do you even know? Have you even thought about it? Like, what are you doing for my child besides what you're doing to protect the teachers? The teachers can be vaccinated, the community is vaccinated, and we're still acting like it's March of 2020. It's crazy. And again, because you guys aren't listening to our side, this will be the last time that I'm coming. It's pointless. I take time away from my family to come up here and express my opinion, and you do not hear us. My son will be up next to talk about how he feels when he has to wear a mask for 6 hours a day.
Okay, Nolan, the fall.
How you feel when you have to wear a mask?
It just makes me feel good to make a to put a mask on for 6 hours in school. It does not make me feel good.
Okay, next speaker would be Nicholas Harvey.
Good evening, board members. I want to thank you all for being here on your Tuesday night, helping our district. And I just wanted to speak very briefly on why I would like to see the district bring back the option for virtual public comment during board meetings. And it's something we had last year and the start of this year, but it's obviously no longer an option. And so I have two main reasons for my view, and those connect specifically to two of the strategic goals. So first, looking at a community of responsiveness. So providing the option for people to comment virtually lowers the barrier of entry for people who want to provide a live comment. We have families who live in San Ramon, and especially families who are transfers who live in maybe Castro Valley or Hayward. It can take, it might be an hour and a half for the whole process of driving to Danville, waiting to provide a public comment, and then driving all the way back home. And obviously, there's the option to provide a public comment through email, which is a fantastic option. It's a really good thing that helps improve the accessibility of interacting with board meetings. But there are some benefits to allowing virtual public comments as well as emails. First of all, when people are able to give a virtual public comment live, as opposed to an email that helps the community hear their ideas. And that's really sort of an important thing of sort of our local democracy and how we run education, so that the community can hear ideas that other members of the community have, and they can bond on those and share ideas. And the second, obviously, we all know that being able to see each other's faces, even over a Zoom screen, it's a lot more personal, it's a lot more human, and you can really sort of understand what people are saying, I think, a lot better. And my second main reason for, or the second strategic goal that ties into providing the virtual public comment is equity, specifically economic equity. And so what I mean specifically is that some families might be working at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, and they might not be able to drive themselves or their student to give a public comment if they want to give a live comment instead of sending an email. And this allowing the virtual public comment would really help lower the barrier of entry for people to provide a live comment. And I want to thank you all again for being here on your Tuesday evening. And that's my public comment.
Okay, our next speaker under public comment is Mike Errata.
Good evening, everyone. The parents of a 7th grade child enrolled in one of the district's middle schools contacted me recently, dismayed and angered that one of the child's teachers had required kids to specify their preferred pronouns for the whole classroom. Like most young people, the child felt that in dress and mannerisms, the preferred pronouns were perfectly obvious and was confused and embarrassed at having to specify them. Kids are fluently plastic in their perceptions of self, and they are generally insecure. They go through natural phases wherein boys prefer the company of other boys and girls the company of other girls. If they begin to hear hints or even assertions from irresponsible adults that such associations may indicate a tendency toward transgenderism, the kids may believe it themselves. Instead, for most kids, there comes a time when opposite sex attractions become a determinative phase of behavior. A small percentage of adults experience gender dysphoria or discomfort with their physically apparent and even chromosomally confirmed sex, and seem to be manifesting a transgender inclination or some so-called binary identity. But of even that percentage, approximately 80% eventually desist or turn away from that transgenderism diagnosis by some, so long as that condition is not socially affirmed, hormonally reinforced with puberty-blocking drugs, or the child is not mutilated surgically. So the ideologies and politics of the district's gender activists, whether subtle or pushed overtly by radical gender benders, do not belong in classes. That goes as well as third-party outfits, which the district routinely indulges or utilizes, from the teacher union's LGBTQ caucus to the grossly intolerant outfit known as Teaching Tolerance, which is a subset of the defamation machine known as the Southern Poverty Law Center. SPLC's founder was fired in 2019 due to his misogyny and racism becoming all too public, as well as the $162 million stash of money held in offshore accounts. The district should halt its crude imposition on children, and in the meantime, alarmed parents can prepare themselves for these discussions with 2 on-point books. One is Abigail Schreier's Irreversible Damage, subtitled The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. The other is Ryan Anderson's When Harry Became Sally, subtitled Responding to the Transgender Moment. As I've said repeatedly over the years, the district schools appear to have too many teachers who believe that children think like adults.
Thank you,
because
Mr.
they are
Adda. That's
adults who
3
think
minutes.
Like children. Thank you.
So I think that's all the public comment cards. And Cindy, that's all? Okay. So we're moving on to 10 point, oh, sorry, no, 9.3, Association President Report. So, you're good? Okay. So Laura,
Good evening, board members. My name is Laura Finco, and my pronouns are proudly she, hers, and her. I am the president of the San Ramon Valley Education Association, representing the nearly over 1,700 non-managerial personnel, including teachers, classroom teachers, counselors, nurses, school psychologists, social workers, special related support personnel as such. Tonight, I really want to talk about our sunshine, why we see our teachers that are here representing our schools wearing yellow. Keith. I also want to share about how hard our teachers work to ensure that our students receive the best educational experience in all this craziness known as COVID and the pandemic. I want to talk about how they sacrifice themselves every day to do more and more because of their commitment to their students. I'd like to share how our focus as an association, whether it be in our negotiations or in the actions in our classrooms, that what we do because our students deserve it. That we believe our students deserve the best social emotional wellness supports possible. That we believe that they deserve adequately funded schools, and that we believe that they deserve fully staffed schools. That's what I'd like to talk about tonight, but really what I need to talk about is so much more important than those, and that's the fact that, well, really it's a message for the community, if I may be indulged. It's a plea. So dear San Ramon Valley community, over the last 5 weeks, I, along with Servia Vice President Melinda Daly, have been visiting our schools, and it goes without saying that we are witnessing some remarkable, extraordinary, and even heroic things. In visiting, we've also been listening and asking questions. Almost without exception, every site that we have been to, there's been one overarching theme: the lack of substitutes. So tonight, I stand here asking our community to consider reaching out to human resources. Sign up, apply to be a substitute in our schools. Maybe you have an affinity for supporting classes and could work as an instructional aide. Maybe you have a knack for supervising and can be a yard duty or campus supervisor. Maybe you have always thought about teaching or previously were a teacher and might miss it and would like to come back. Our schools need you. We need your time, we need your talent, and we need your support. So, as a community together, I invite you to join us. Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
thank you, Laura. And Tammy, you're okay? Okay. 9.4, Student Board Members Report. Ronit?
Thank you. So today I'm going to be going over 3 overarching themes which have been impacting the student body recently. And these have been my findings as just a student at Monte Vista High School, but also gauging the opinions of a variety of different students throughout the district through my own means, but primarily through the Student Senate. So the first theme which I would like to discuss is the child nutrition. At the past board meeting, there was a little bit of discussion about the situation with school lunches, and that has been an ongoing discussion since our second board meeting after school started for the year. So I was able to meet with Zeta Riker, the director of child nutrition, and we discussed a lot of the issues which were affecting the student body relating to the lunch experience. So that could be anywhere from long lines to a small selection of food choices, and even a lack of knowledge in advance about what's being served. After talking to her, we did note there is an effort underway to revise the menus using the inputs of students within the district. And we're working on a way to give students complete information about what is being served throughout the week virtually. And we've started on an initial model with this, which I'll get into in a little bit. But in the future, it will be much more in detail regarding calorie counts, what's being served throughout the week, and there will be a but obviously as everything goes, it will take a little bit of time to get to that stage. Um, but right now, what we're doing is we've started a pilot program at Monte Vista High School to advertise what is being served on the following day on the school's website with assistance from the district child nutrition team. And seeing its success over this past week at Monte Vista High School, we'll be expanding that to other schools in the coming weeks, just so that students know and parents know what's being served for the next day at school, so they'll know whether to pack a lunch in the morning or whether they want to go stand in that line to buy a lunch. Apart from that, a couple of the other concerns considering the menu, which we will continue to work through, are accounting for the vegetarian meal options, which we have gotten a lot better at. But we also do need to make sure that there is an option for lactose intolerance, people who are vegan, or who have gluten-free diets just due to their own circumstances. Additionally, the Student Senate and a variety of other stakeholders in the student body do believe that although the free lunch is a viable option for everybody, there should be an additional option for snacks and beverages if a student is not looking for a full meal, like we've had during years prior. Where students can go down to their school cafeteria and either purchase a drink or a snack during break time or lunch, either to supplement whatever they've already gotten for lunch or during their break period during school. The next major theme was Schoology. So the Student Senate was actually able to meet with Chris George in the district's technology department to understand the reasoning behind the switch to Schoology. And that information will be spread throughout the district student body just so that students are understanding exactly what um, has come along with the switch and why we are really waiting to see this play out and working with the district and working with Schoology itself to make sure that we are meeting the needs of everybody. So, as many know in the district, there has been a bit of a learning curve associated with the platform, but we are communicating with those in charge within the district to ensure that things are getting fixed for the ease of use. So, after talking to Chris George, what we've done is the student and the Student Senate have given him some of the overarching concerns regarding to the grading systems, regarding the platform and how things are viewed in there, and they will be taking that to their meeting with Schoology itself, whoever they're meeting with, whether it's human resources or their point of contact, and then they're going to work to see if there is any workaround so that the platform can be used in a better way to match our student body's needs. So we voiced concerns about the way that assignments and grades are difficult to view on the platform, but we truly have full confidence that in collaboration with the district's technology department, that we can make this a lot more user-friendly for our student body. And even over past weeks, we've noticed that there has been a much smaller portion of just discontent regarding the platform as students are getting a bit more used to it. Additionally, the tech department is rolling out a video for teachers to understand the platform better, and we do plan to do the same specifically dedicated towards students as well. The third section is just miscellaneous school concerns and information that is necessary to provide. As many know, there have been various concerns across the district, not just in high schools, but also in middle schools about bathroom and a little bit of other unruly behavior in schools. But those are currently being addressed by school administration, just using security camera footage and other proper disciplinary measures. So that has been relatively under control, luckily. But overall, even regarding the last 2 points and just any other miscellaneous information, I think that we're really working towards a much better school environment for all schools. And I really look forward to what we're going to see in the coming months, just with a few other updates, especially in the learning management system and in child nutrition, but just also in the environment itself. Thank you.
If I can ask,
Oh, yes.
thank you, Ronnie. Just one quick question about the child nutrition. I'm just wondering, particularly at the high school level, how are things going in terms of the speed of the lines of students getting lunch? Is it improved in terms of, actually being able to get something and be able to sit and eat it?
Yeah, so I think that the speed of the lines has been improved due to the grab and go system with a lot of the things being prepackaged and using the lines. I think you walk through essentially and you pick up whatever you need. Um, so that's been working out a lot better. Since there are so many people getting food during the lunch period, it still does take a while, but that's simply due to the amount of people who are standing in those lines. One solution that we are trying to figure out, which does depend from campus to campus and how they are laid out, is really having various points of service, which will also depend on the number of servers which we have at each campus. So, for example, at Monte Vista, which I am most familiar with, there are two sections previously in my freshman year where we used to have food served. But due to the amount of servers, we had to reduce it to only one location. Um, in the coming months, if we are able to gain more servers, we would like to have both of those since they are on opposing ends of the campus, and it would allow students on one end of the campus to get there at a much more equitable time compared to other students on the other side of campus near the current cafeteria area, because otherwise that does lead to students being kind of disproportionately being able to access the food just due to the time that it takes to get there for them or the amount of like lenience they have with being able to get a school lunch that day. But there are workarounds and we are looking at them and it has gotten, I would say, exponentially better. So yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
So hopefully, and to, I think, our Soviet president's point, right? If maybe our community members would like to help with serving lunches and things like that, and being substitutes, um, it would go a lot easier, I think, with our some of our school sites. So, thank you, Ronit. Okay. 10.1, we're doing a public hearing for the initial proposal for labor negotiation, San Ramon Valley Education Association, or SRVIA, to San Ramon Valley Unified School District for the 2020-2021 and the 2022 school years. Okay, so it's a public hearing, so I'm going to gavel in. And are there any public comments for 10.1? I do not have any cards for 10.1. No? Okay, then I'm going to close this hearing. 10.2. Now there's a public hearing for the initial proposal for labor negotiations from San Ramon Valley Unified School District to the San Ramon Valley Education Association, SRVIA, for the 2020-2021 and the 2021 to 2022 school years. So open the public hearing. Any comments? No? Okay. Then I'm going to close out our public hearing for that one. Yeah. All right. Now 10.3. Consideration of acceptance of the initial proposal for labor negotiations from the San Ramon Valley Education Association, SRVIA, to San Ramon Valley Unified School District for the 2020-2021 and the 2021 to 2022 school years. So Superintendent Keith Rachinski, can you help us out with this one?
Sure, I'll speak to both 10.3 and 10.4. So 10.3 is the initial proposal, sunshine document that San Ramon Valley Education Association is presenting this evening. You can see that they have identified specific articles of the collective bargaining agreement that they wish to discuss with the district at the bargaining table for 2020-21 and for 2021-22. I won't get into the details of that, but what I do ask that the board do is to accept the initial proposal as presented by Servia. And I think that the Servia president may want to speak to this item.
Thank you. Jump the queue here real quickly. Thank you, guys. I just want to thank you for your consideration for this item, and in doing so, present the information that was in the board agenda. This evening, I want to introduce our bargaining team that is new for this year. We have our chairs this year as co-chairs with Dee Dee Judice, an elementary representative who's here tonight. John Vespi, who is our middle school representative, and he's also here this evening. In addition to our two co-chairs, we are also represented by high school Director Johan Somerville from Doherty Valley High School. Sarah Cohn from Monte Vista High School is representing our special education interests, and then Melinda Daly, who is our Vice President of Servia, is also representing our middle school. And so we really look forward to a constructive and positive labor management negotiations this season. So thank you.
Okay, on the same topic, Jennifer Jones for 10.3.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Jones, and I'm a proud 25-year Servia member who is here to urge you to partner with Servia to support our students. Our students deserve the best educators. To retain and recruit the best educators, you must immediately negotiate a fair return for our educators' work. Currently, San Ramon Valley Unified employees must pay current prices on a 2019-2020 salary. It has been stated by upper management that teachers will work for free, so why compensate them? Teachers are not volunteers. We have bachelor's degrees, teaching credentials, advanced degrees, certifications in our field. This narrative has been perpetuated by management and sadly, even teachers themselves, by not demanding to be paid for their worth, their talents, and their expertise. Because of this, we now find ourselves in a teacher shortage. Today's college graduates see very clearly what has been happening for decades to teachers in a women-dominated profession. It's glaringly obvious that the treatment of educators, from pay to blatant disrespect, is not sustainable. If San Ramon Valley Unified School District sees the value in compensating upper management with the highest salaries among our partners in Dublin and Pleasanton, it's certainly time to do the right thing and compensate our teachers accordingly. If management is worth it, so are we. The time to act is now, before the teachers in San Ramon Valley Unified School District take their talents to Dublin and Pleasanton. When you compensate teachers for their worth, our students benefit, and that matters. Thank you.
Okay, next on 10.3 also is Sarah Blair. I guess there are actually three. Yes, Sarah Blair, Tamara Black, and Charlotte Murphy.
My name is Sarah, and I'm a teacher of students with visual impairments for San Ramon Valley Unified, otherwise known as a TVI. Standing before you with me are two of my three colleagues, Charlotte Murphy and Tamara Black. I teach students in our early intervention program, preschools, middle school, virtual academy, and high school. I'm at 3 to 5 school sites each day, serving students in both our general education and special education programs. We serve students who have low vision, are blind, and deafblind. We are asking you to support our students by supporting appropriate caseloads. My current caseload minutes extend 14 and a half hours a week beyond my workday. My colleague Tamara's extend 12 hours a week beyond her workday. I apologize, I don't know your overage. This does not include time for IEP meetings, assessments, report writing, It does not include creation of large print, braille materials, tactile graphics, and all the things my students need to succeed. We still don't have lunch. We still don't have prep for multiple years. Based on past practice, the district has paid TVI's 1.2 prep and lunch. My team is still waiting on that. One of the items before you tonight is item 12.8. It's a job description for myself and my 3 colleagues. This job description was part of a grievance settlement from 3 years ago. Let me reiterate, you are seeing it for the first time tonight because it has taken that long for any progress to be made on that settlement. We've been put off, we've been ignored. We've sat across the table from district leadership multiple times over the course of the last 3 years without any change. We've requested a meeting with Dr. Malloy and have been refused, pushing us back to the same leaders who sat across the table with us for years, all of which is heavily documented. Our caseload numbers continue to increase year after year with no cap or limits in sight. Additionally, there's a 10-year national shortage of professionals in our field. One of our neighboring districts has had a TVI position posted for over a year without a single applicant. In spite of all this, we show up every day for the good of our students. I'm passionate about my field, and I'm a highly qualified and highly trained specialist. I love working for San Ramon Valley Unified School District. We have some of the best educators around, and we are asking you to partner with us. Our students deserve the best. They deserve the same access to their education as their sighted peers. They deserve highly qualified teachers who have adequate time to meet their needs. Myself and my team are happy to provide our Board of Education members with any additional information, details, answer any questions you may have. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. It's all about the kids.
Thank you. So I think that was the last card I have for 10.3. Okay, then Assistant Superintendent on 10.4.
Thank you. So item 10.4 requests that the Board of Education accept the San Ramon Valley Unified School District's initial sunshine proposal for negotiations with the San Ramon Valley Education Association. You'll note that our intentions at this time are to open and discuss 3 separate items. We recommend and request board acceptance as presented.
I do not have any public cards for 10.4. So the board, I guess, any comments or questions for either 10.3 or 10.4? Okay. So moving on. Yes, 10.3.
And 10.4, do them separately.
Yes, and it would be actually acceptance
Right.
as
acceptance.
presented.
Yeah. So do we
I would prefer separately, please.
separately? right?
Okay, move
Yeah.
approval or consideration of acceptance of the initial proposal on 10.3.
Second?
The motion was made by Board Member Mintz and seconded by Board Member Hurd. Call out vote. Student Board Member Bacha,
Aye.
Board Member Clark,
Aye.
Board Member Bratt,
Aye.
Board Member Hurd,
Aye.
Board Member Mintz,
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, and then can I have a motion for 10.4?
I'll move on 10.4 with acceptance of
Second.
The motion was made by Board Member Hurd and seconded by Board Member Clark. Call out vote. Student Board Member Bacha,
Aye.
Board Member Clark,
Aye.
Board Member Bratt,
Aye.
Board Member Hurd,
Aye.
Board Member Mintz,
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 10.5. I am not going to read the whole title, if I may. First sentence, that's what I'm doing. This is like the longest title of, yes, any item I've seen. Okay, 10.5, for 2021 refinancing of $265 million of district's general obligation bond. Chief of Business Officer Medici, please, you can help us.
Absolutely. Thank you, President Ordway. This is an exciting one, a continuing series in the world's longest titles. So Logan and I are pulling up the agenda, the presentation where it's getting passed around actually right now. Prior to the presentation, thank you, board, for this agenda item tonight. This is the continuing series that dates actually all the way back to really 20 years ago when the board made a promise to the community that if they were to support us, graciously support us with all the bond programming, over $500 million in the last 20 years, we would very judiciously and wisely, under the board's guidance, do the best we can to make sure that we're being as fiscally prudent as possible with their tax dollars. So awesome. That's perfect, Logan. That's perfect. So starting again 20 years ago with the previous series of 2002, followed by a series in 2012, the the board set out and sold all of the authorizations of bond dollars from the community. In 2018, the fall of 2018, the very last new money, Series 3 was sold. And in the fall of last year, 2020, the board directed district staff and our financial advisors, who are represented in the audience, and they'll be here if we need them, to set out to go about and find kind of the best way to refinance all of our bond dollars in what is an unprecedentedly low interest rate environment. So starting last year, November 15th, the board approved a refinancing that ultimately had a payback ratio, which basically means for every dollar we borrow, how much interest do we have to pay on those dollars, but a payback ratio well under 1.1, which is kind of unprecedented in the bond world. For kind of common analogy, when we all go to pay back our mortgages, which is very similar to how how school bonds are structured, usually a really good payback ratio over a 30-year mortgage is 2, 2.5, even 3. So anything close to basically 1-to-1 is basically paying almost all principal. So what we're about to see tonight, oh, and sorry, should I go page down? Oh, I can totally do that. Oh, perfect, perfect. So building on last year's direction, there has continued to be kind of opportunity. That curve, the red and blue curve, shows how kind of rates were rising and now kind of settling back down to a seriously opportune point right now. The connection, as we're all hearing in the news, of kind of the ongoing debt ceiling kind of issues and the trillions of dollars of public kind of debt that potentially may be hitting the market. This leaves us in a super positive position to kind of bank savings now and not have to kind of further be at the whims of kind of the market makes. And sorry, Logan, thank you very much for this. The structure that we're about to look at in the following slides, and it's also in front of you, is based on, as mentioned, this concept that we're very diligent about honoring the promise that we've made about a $75 per $100,000 of assessed value property tax. I think in the last few days, we probably all have gotten, maybe in the last week or so, our envelopes from Contra Costa. If you take our two bonds, if in the upper right-hand corner, I was actually just doing this with a neighbor actually, but in the upper right-hand corner of all of our property taxes, if you take your assessed value and then you divide that by 100,000, that'll give you some sort of number. Let's say it was 10. Let's say your assessed value was $1 million. When you divide that by 100,000, you get 10. If you take the value on your individualized property taxes of our two bonds, and then you divide that by 70, you should get the same 10. I actually did mine, and it was exactly 75, so that's how it should be. I think it's technically possible it could be like 74.9999666 something something something. So, but that's how the calculation's made. The reason why we present this assessed valuation slide is because as part of the board's promise and the board's ongoing spectacular diligence, the many, actually a huge amount of the parcels that that are the foundation of the assessed value of our property taxes are well below market value in terms of their assessment. So the statutory ability in Prop 13 to uh, to increase the property tax by 2% every year is really the foundation of in the long run, whether it's 10 or even 30 years, but our property values on average typically grow up, 5% plus, because it's all of the houses that are kind of under market value plus the new houses plus any additional just new developments. And that's how on the whole our assessed valuation has gone up a lot. And so when we go to this next slide, finally, we're going to get to one where, so all of these bonds are paid by the assessed valuation, which in total is about $55 billion, and certainly growing. So when we look at charts like this, and we are in the very first part of this chart, when we structure what is the anticipated growth of property taxes, and this is a really key thing, we assume in the beginning that we're basically only going to get that 2% growth. So what that does is it allows us to very cautiously and conservatively, but also confidently structure a refinancing so that we can maintain that $75 promise and also kind of maximize our ability to ultimately pay back as little as possible, save as much interest payments, and make as many principal payments as possible while still maintaining a cushion. So we've the models that we're looking at visually, this is the current structure. And then from here, where we have the ability, and again, through the board's fantastic guidance from the fall, we have the ability to basically maintain the $75 promise and at the same time tomorrow on a present value basis, which is really an advanced kind of calculation, but literally save $30 million plus to the community. And that literally means that between now and what would have been 2040, that even if we were to write a check tomorrow, that we'd be literally writing $30 million less checks as a community, so less money sent to Wall Street. But over time, the actual checks we would write are far higher from a present value perspective. So we're really proud to bring this to the board tonight. We thank the board for their continuing direction to be very mindful of the community's dollars. With the board's action tonight, we will continue to move forward with our financing team and go out to the market in a negotiated sale. We're inviting bids for the structure of bonds that we're presenting to the market. And then we are going to kind of take the lowest bids, kind of negotiate from when people subscribe to our maturities. If they want to buy 2025 bonds, some pension fund or something, and we have X amount of bonds, typically 3 or 4 or 5 times the amount of buyers put in a bid. And then our financial team goes back to them and says, well, we've got 5 sets of people who want this. So do you guys want to sharpen your pencil a little bit harder and accept a little bit less interest? And then ultimately we land on the group or a group of buyers that buy our whole bond. So that process will begin with the board's action tonight. And again, we really thank the board for your continuing diligence and allowing us to save all of these serious amounts of money for the community.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Just so that I understand, because it says right in one of the slides that our current, I think page or the 4th slide or page 4, our current principal outstanding is 391 million, or, yeah, 760,000. So you are asking us to do the refinancing on the 265 million instead of the whole amount or something.
The green.
Because, right, because that will keep us the $75 max.
It will, how we will structure it will keep us on the facts we know today in the $75 max. And the green, the 3 green bonds here are eligible for refinancing. The other 3 transactions
I see.
are
Or
not callable
right.
and kind of unprecedentedly low interest rates as is.
Okay. Thank you.
So Greg, the only question I have is, when we go out to the market, is there any go, no-go point in terms of what we would accept? And we're giving you the authority to do it, but is there a limit besides the $75 ceiling that would say, no, it's not the right time to do this?
Absolutely. Our is here. We certainly intend to move forward in the market, but if there's some market disruption or otherwise something that occurs as in the next 2 weeks, that nothing, we can come back to the board for further further kind of authorization direction kind of thing.
Thank you.
We do not anticipate that, just as
Sure.
kind of a going course of action.
Greg, can you turn to the slide that has the 2 bar charts side by side with
Yes.
potential refunding of all callable bonds?
Yes. Sorry.
So the graph on the right is you illustrating how they would be refinanced, right? How it
Yes.
would take up that capacity for the $75 per 100,000 of assessed value.
Yes.
So if I'm interpreting that right, does that mean that in order to keep the promise to the community of no more than 75 per 100,000, we would not be able to go out for another bond measure until 2031?
Excellent question. Because of the early assumptions at 2%, when even this year, as we've experienced, when we exceed these growth assumptions, there begins to establish a cushion, which is how these kind of the areas below the red curve, even on the left, kind of occur.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the assumptions are designed to give us room to grow into kind of the $75 cap. And that said, and also the even if in an upcoming year, if we wanted not only to use the room, then we could structure obviously current interest bonds to pay with the room we have, and then we would be filling up 2032, 2033, 2034. We'd be filling up that part of the graph.
But if we refinance so that it looked like the graph on the right,
correct.
would there be room? I guess there'd be some cushion. I guess you can also structure your new bonds, don't start paying on it until you've got the.
That as well. But yeah, I mean, if, for instance, if in 2032 we wanted to make a $10 million principal payment and we had 3% interest on that 10 million, then in the preceding 8 years, and this is just for example purposes, but that's approximately 300, not compounded, very simple math, not the exact math, but 300 per year, and actually for that matter, 300,000 to make the $10 million interest payment that year, and then whatever that would maintain. There may be a corresponding small principal payment. Basically, we can structure principal components to pay to not accrue the interest, like a balloon payment at the end. We do not have to structure.
So we would have options if we decide, because we were looking at another bond a few years ago, and then everything kind of slowed down with the pandemic and all of that.
Okay, but it doesn't take it off the table. I just wanted to make sure
Absolutely,
I understood
absolutely.
how that worked. Thank you.
Absolutely not.
Any other questions from the board or comments? Okay, great, thank you. Then can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I also want to thank Greg because this has been your thing and you've been super good at it for the whole time you've been in this position of maximizing our whole borrowing management. And thank you. You've saved our community lots and lots of money. So
And-
I move approval.
And I'll second. And also, again, I do want to point out, again, first, thanks to Greg and his team, but also point out to the community that this is really a community effort to really make our requests for financing from the community that much more efficient and affordable. So that's where this 30 million, I wish it was 30 million that was coming to us, but it's 30 million that we're saving the community by taking this action.
The motion was made by Board Member Hurd and seconded by Board Member Mintz. Call out vote. Student Board Member Batra,
Aye.
Board Member Clark,
Aye.
Board Member Bratt,
Aye.
Board Member Hurd,
Aye.
Board Member Mintz,
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, great. And also echoing my thank you for Chief Business Officer and his team because yes, this, and we've been able to, I think that we've been able to also get the lowest rates and things like that because of, yeah, our rating that provides us with the credibility, I think, to from the market. So thank you.
One other
Yes,
thing I
okay.
wanted to add, and that is we've been able to do some amazing things in this school district and create facilities that are the art and improve so many campuses that were in such great need, like Twin Creeks and Charlotte Wood and Stone Valley and the building at San Ramon Valley High School and the Monte Vista, things at Monte Vista. So this money has been well spent and overseen by a facilities oversight committee that is dedicated to making sure that the community is getting the most for the money that they're giving for the bonds. So I just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Shelley. Okay, moving on to 10.6. So another public hearing. So public hearing for the proposed elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund third expenditure plan, the SR3 expenditure plan. Okay. Opening this public hearing. Any comments? No comment cards? Okay, then I'm going to gavel out. Closing the hearing. For 10.6, 10.7, consideration of adoption of the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund 3 expenditure plan, or the SR3 expenditure plan. Assistant Superintendent Christine Gerardo.
Sure. Thank you, President Orway. So tonight we have in front of you the plan to spend roughly $3.4 million on the following items that we've listed within the board docket on expenses, including technology, software, hardware, short-term independent study instructional support, and after-school intervention. So we want to ask the board to consider adopting this ESSER Relief Fund spending plan this evening.
Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, and I do not have a public comment cards for this one, so may I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
The motion was made by Board Member Clark and Board Member Bratt and seconded by Board Member Clark, excuse me. May I have a call out vote? Student Board Member Batra,
Aye.
Board Member Clark,
Aye.
Board Member Bratt,
Aye.
Board Member Hurd,
Aye.
Board Member Mintz,
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
10.8, consideration of adoption of resolution number 33/2122, approval of provisional internship permit or PIP requests. Assistant Superintendent Keith Wojcinski.
As the board knows, this has been a pretty much a standing item from one board meeting to the next. We're requesting tonight board approval on resolution number 33, and that will allow us to hire the 3 individuals named in the resolution to teach in tough to staff areas in the secondary program at this year's virtual academy. So approval is recommended as presented.
Do I
Move
have a
approval.
motion? Thank you.
The motion was made by Board Member Mintz and seconded by Board Member Clark. Call out vote. Student Board Member Batra,
Aye.
Board Member Clark,
Aye.
Board Member Bratt,
Aye.
Board Member Hurd,
Aye.
Board Member Mintz,
Aye.
Board Member Ordway.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 11.0. It'll be an informational item. 11.1, first reading of revision to board policy and administrative regulation for three items, right? Uniform complaint procedures, non-discrimination in employment, and sexual harassment.
So if I can just speak very briefly to this item. First, I want to apologize that there's a lot of text here. And so I reviewed it prior to this evening's meeting and I thought, wow, I gave this board a lot for this meeting. So in the process, actually, within the past couple of months of preparing and bringing you the Title IX sexual harassment policy, we worked with council to kind of review some of the essential policies in human resources, students, and other sections of the board policy and administrative regulations manual, and discovered that we're pretty significantly out of compliance as far as current regulations are concerned. For the board policy and administrative regulation 1312 on uniform complaints, 4030 on non-discrimination in employment, and 4119.11 on sexual harassment. And I tried to clarify there, we're trying to accomplish a number of things. First, all of the policies we want to bring into compliance with current statute and regulations, number one. We also want to eliminate an existing standalone administrative regulation, which is 4031, and replace it with administrative regulation 4030. It basically updates and makes contemporary that old administrative regulation. We have no board policy that goes with it. So it basically 4030 would completely replace administrative regulation 4031. And then the way that the board policies work, 4119 applies to certificated employees, 4219 applies to classified employees, and 4319 to supervisory and management employees. Literally, all 3 policies and administrative regulations are the same. It's just the way that board policies and administrative regulations are set up. So we're bringing these forward to you this evening for just kind of a first look and for any discussion or questions that you may have. And our intentions are to bring them back to you for final reading and recommended action at the board's meeting on October 26th. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say, if I can also add, most of what is included in terms of content was very similar to what we had with regards to Title IX. Most of this is driven by statute as well as regulations that we are to which we're bound. So we may have some play, but in speaking to council about this, these are pretty close to what they actually should be, and pretty closely emulate the templates that are provided to us by the California School Boards Association. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, no, we need to be in compliance on all these things. And like you said, it's not something that we can play around with, right? It's yeah, regulations. So thank you. Okay, come down to administrative matters. So
Wait, Susanna,
oh,
we're supposed to get
oh.
feedback.
alrighty.
Did you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Keith, first of all, that was a lot to read, and I just I'm saying this as a compliment. I only have one question to raise.
Oh.
So, I mean, it was all super clear and super easy to follow.
Okay.
The one I wanted to bring up is related to BPAR 1312.3. It's on page 83 of the packet, and it's where all the different things that have to go in a notice are.
Yes.
I was just wondering the way number 3 refers to a 1-year time limit and number 4 refers to a 6-month time limit, given the when the complaints alleging unlawful discrimination, harassment, intimidation, or bullying. I wondered if we could reverse those because it just seemed like as someone was reading something, seeing the shorter time frame first might communicate timelines better. Because they might read the first one and go, oh, I have a year, and then not realize that if the nature of the complaint was the other, kind
You're
of get themselves
suggesting,
stuck.
if I understand, you're suggesting that the two items remain the same, they just be transposed, 4 becomes 3 and 3 becomes 4? Absolutely.
Because I would just hate for someone to be in that condition, think, oh,
stop reading
they're
at 3.
thinking about it, stop reading at 3. And
I understand.
that's all.
And I also had just one question, and this is an odd one, I guess, but in the ARs, it lists you, Keith, as the Chief Compliance Officer and Dave Kravitz. And I'm just wondering, does it have to be within the AR your specific names? Because if you were to change roles or something else, does it have to then come back before us to change the AR just to change the person as opposed to a position or designee type of thing that we see in other.
I ask our counsel that we're working with, Jackie Litra, that very question, because I too like to see policies brought forth that don't have individuals and individual personalities attached to them. Right. And what she clarified to me was that all of that information is supposed to be included in the actual policy or administrative regulations. So as individuals sitting in the seats change, the policy will need to be brought forward for revision.
And then the other part of my question was just going to be, and you've already answered. So this is the foundation of this change is from CSBA.
Absolutely.
Because we've been trying to align ourselves with CSBA policies and regulations as close as possible with as few changes as we can.
Yes, that's the case.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Is that right through? I did, so sorry. I'm like, hey, it's to me. Okay, and that's just an informational item, right? That to give you information and you give us information, so do not need a vote on that. So board members reports. Student board member, Batra. Bonnet, do you have anything besides your?
Yes. So, although I did cover most of the information that I've been going over for the past few weeks, during my student board member report earlier, I was able to meet with somebody on the Danville Youth Council who had been coordinating activities and meetings. And I do plan to attend either their next meeting or the meeting after that to do something similar with what I do with Student Senate, just trying to gauge the feedback of stakeholders within the community on what their stance is on any issues pertaining to the school environment. So that is something that I will be doing in the future. In the coming weeks, I believe we will have another LCAP meeting as well. And I will be just continuing to collaborate with the Student Senate as much as possible, but also making sure to open up a variety of other external means just to coordinate with other students, teachers, any sort of faculty, just to understand what I can do to help best. Thank you.
No, that's great that you're connecting with the Danville Youth Council. I think that Santa Ramon, City of Santa Ramon, I think has one too, with teen council. So it might be good to maybe connect with them.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely do that. The Danville Youth Council actually reached out to the district itself. I think you forwarded me the email, so that was how the collaboration started. But I can also reach out to the San Ramon Teen Council, and we can set something up in collaboration.
Great, thank you. Okay, Ellie?
Yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks. I attended the virtual gala for the Contra Costa Teacher of the Year, and so proud of our teachers. Michelle Wilson and Patricia Facto were our teachers that we brought to the county. And so we're just so fortunate to have so many great, qualified, dedicated educators. And I truly mean that. And we're so excited because Michelle Wilson has been chosen from Doherty Valley High School to move forward, yay, to the state to represent proudly the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. So that was just totally wonderful and such a positive note. I also sit as the liaison to the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee, and this week we chose 5 new members. So those will be commencing here shortly. And that's the committee that oversees the parcel taxes collected from all of our property owners in this school district, and those go into our coffers. I started site visits this week. That felt really good because it's the first time since the pandemic and since I've been in office that I'm being able to go out to school sites. So I visited San Ramon Valley High School, who has a new principal this year, and she's just fabulous. And got to walk around the campus and see what was going on, talk to some of the staff and admin, and spend some time with the principal. I also visited Los Cerros Middle School and was totally delighted with the positive attitude on the campus, how engaged the kids are, and they have a great principal, Andy Briggs, and he was just very welcoming, and it was just a great place to be. I also worked with Rachel on our first meeting to begin to develop the governance handbook that we're going to be putting together that will reflect our bylaws and hopefully be good information for our public. I have a visit scheduled this week at Twin Creeks to check on the construction and to touch base with the administrators there. And I'm looking forward to that. That's it for me.
Thanks, Shelley. Laura?
I also want to, I'm sure we all do want to say congratulations to Michelle Wilson. It's very exciting that she's moving on. And then Ken and I met with Terry Kona about our board ad hoc meeting for advocacy. And we're meeting again, I think, this week. Yeah. And then we had a traffics meeting last week, and I want to take a minute to say thank you to Megan Wilkerson, who is stepping down. She did an amazing job this last year through everything that transpired and all of the nuance and details and complexity of trying to manage traffics and get it back up and running in a timely manner. And the city of San Ramon is working diligently to make sure that there's a smooth transition moving forward, so that there isn't and there won't be any break in management with traffics. And then we had that special board workshop on Monday, and I really appreciated all of the information that I gathered around negotiations. So.
Rachel?
Yeah. Along with Susanna, I attended the LCAP meeting on the 21st. It was great to have an in-person meeting with members of the public, and we had a lot of students participating, staff members, and it was the beginning of good conversations. And thank you to John Campopiano for leading that meeting. I'm excited about the Run for Education virtual run this weekend and the Health Expo that lasts all the days. I hope to see people there. I'm volunteering for a little bit on Saturday. And I want to thank the Ed Foundation for the fantastic job they do at putting on that fundraiser and all the great hype and social media that will go around it, and hope to see lots of that this weekend on my phone. There's a CCC SBA program this Thursday that all the members and Dr. Malloy are invited to. Our former SELPA director, Marianne Frades, who's now at the Contra Costa SELPA, will be our guest speaker. She's going to be talking about hot topics in special education for a short presentation, and then it's designed to be a whole lot of questions and answers and just talking about special education. And all I have. Thank you, Shelley, for mentioning the handbook. That was a good meeting we had.
I'll just quickly add my congratulations to Patricia and Michelle as our teachers year. Michelle Wilson moving forward to the Contra Costa County representative on that. I attended the Facilities Oversight Advisory Committee meeting, and this evening we passed the most recent master project schedule for our Measure D projects. We're still continuing to work, even though that was a 2012 bond vote. The projects continue. They're starting to wrap down, but doing some tremendous work, and we still have work in a number of schools that we're continuing to do this year and even into next summer as well. I had the opportunity to also make some campus visits. This past was over at California High School as well as Iron Horse. Had a chance to see students in progress, and it's really amazing to see our students back on campus. I attended one computer science class, and it was completely quiet with about 30 students in the room. All you can hear is the tap, tap, tap on the keyboards as they're doing some coding work. It's just a great opportunity that we've been able to give our students to be back at school, as well as providing the continued virtual academy for those students who are not yet ready to be on our campuses. So that's it for me right now.
Okay, thanks. Yes, adding my congratulations to Michelle Wilson. Yes, Shelley said, going to welcome some new members to the Parcel Tax Committee. And yeah, attended a couple of the similar and sessions as my fellow board members. And we had a very productive, I think, meeting yesterday, workshop yesterday. And so please, community, watch out for like a board brief or whatever it's called, like news flash coming out to kind of summarize on what we worked on. Because there'll be, a couple of things I think to changes with like public comment in order to make our meetings more effective and efficient. At still, wanting to listen to everyone's voice. What else? Actually, the only thing I've actually personally been attending some of the conferences, the college admission conferences, and I can kind of tell you that in a kind of bigger picture, what the higher ed institution are looking for, I think our strategic direction is very, very much aligned with what they would like for their the students that they're looking for. So I think I'm very confident. Yeah, we're supporting our students the way that I think we should as the quality district. So that's all for me, Superintendent Malloy.
Thank you, President Ordway. Tonight, I actually do have a few important points in my report because I've been able to be quieter this evening, and I appreciate my team for all the work that they're doing. I first want to speak a little bit about some of our work in relationship to the COVID situation. Again, there will be a meeting soon. I pray that I will not have to mention this at all, but there are still some things that I think it's important for me to bring forward. We continue to understand that the testing part of the process is a key strategy to helping our kids stay in school. And we need to keep figuring out ways to strengthen that and improve that. And to that end, we will be communicating very shortly again with our community, because we now will be able to provide both the rapid test as well as the PCR test at our district site. We will be changing our website so that families can sign up for one or the other and have that taken care of. We've just finalized agreements with the company that we work with, that where we have a close contact, as long as our families fill out the universal consent form, we can take the actual rapid test to our families to our students at the school site. That is the next step in the process, which is why we're going to clarify the communication regarding why that universal consent form, if families are interested. If they're not, they can certainly child to wherever they wish to be tested. But we are going to clarify even clearer why that's an important piece. If somebody has not filled out the universal consent form, and we do have a significant number of close contacts at a particular school, it means that that parent can still fill it out as long as we can orchestrate getting that information to them, because we have to let the company know by 8 o'clock the night before that we need them to go out the next day. So if it is filled out ahead of time, it only facilitates the process. Again, I understand that this has been a significant amount of heavy lifting in an area where we don't have the expertise, but we're learning very fast. Now that our site is up and running 6 days a week, we've been able to learn at work. We've been able to learn what's caused frustration. We've understood how to improve, and that's what this next iteration is going to do. That connects to the next piece. We continue to support our families and our kids and our staff because it's impacting everybody when students need to be on quarantine. And we understand that some of our families are concerned about students' access to their learning. That is an ongoing discussion. We continue to collaborate with our Servia colleagues on this matter because we know that it's absolutely important that if kids are away, that we've got to figure out what we can do to ensure that they're connected to their learning. So that's also something that is part of this strategy of keeping kids in school. Obviously, last week, the governor made announcements related to the vaccination mandate. We did put that information out, as you know, but our message at this point is we have received no other information, no other considerations around exemptions and such. And our response is that we need to wait and hear and understand what those next steps are. And as soon as we learn and know, we will communicate to you, we will communicate to our entire community. We heard it this evening, and again, know that the staffing shortages are a struggle. And I've always been candid with our board, with our community, when we have literally continued to work on as many strategies as we know. And it's not just a San Ramon issue, but it's certainly one that we are facing. It's impacting our staff, it's impacting our kids. And just know that we will continue to work hard at this, and we will continue to update you. The place where we have considerable issues, the subs that we've heard, we continue to work on that. But in particular, secondary courses that are very specialized is still a challenge, such as physics in the virtual academy. Or some of our needs around special education continue to be exceptionally present to us. And so we're thinking outside the box, working with some of our partners who potentially can assist us with temporary, but we know that the temporary issue isn't going to help us. I mean, it'll stop the gap, but it's not what we're trying to land on. So I wanted you to know that we are still working very, very diligently there. Next week at 3:30 for our staff and 5 o'clock for our community, I'll be facilitating with members of the team our town hall meetings. This year, for this meeting, we decided we would ask for people to share their questions ahead of time. We used the thought exchange model last year. Not everybody appreciates that. Some do, some don't. So we're gathering those questions so that we can prepare insights, perspectives, and ideas for those town halls. We will use thought exchange that evening only to gather what I call additional probes, like I didn't understand what you meant or I need further information about, just so that it can be as engaging as possible, realizing that in a webinar space, it's not always the simplest. However, we will be starting our committee process in October, early November. Connected to our committee process is what we're calling an additional piece where we're going to be at the cabinet level, and certainly our board members are invited to do this as well. And you discussed this, I think, at the advocacy meeting, where we will support individual dialogues where we might sit with groups of 15 staff members or 15 community members, just to gain further insight regarding some of the issues that the steering committee is addressing. So that's another piece that's trying to engage our community as broadly and as creatively as we can, realizing that different people appreciate different modes. Some people like email, some people like webinars, some people like meetings, some people like focus groups, and we're really committed in terms of the work that we're doing to take this to the next level. I do want to say as well, and I'm going to tell a small story. I went to Doherty Valley to visit Michelle Wilson and the campus and the other staff there and the students that are there. And I wanted to speak with her about a really significant piece in her speech that she gave the night of the gala. What she did for me the night of the gala was speak about how she incorporates student voice throughout her program. And obviously, our strategic directions speak about deep learning. Deep learning as the #1 tenet is about student ownership for that learning. And she really went into such depth in her speech about how she does that and why she does that. So I went over and had this conversation. The reason I'm sharing it with you is she handed me a published book of our kids from Doherty Valley High Schools thinking and writing on some of the most complex topics that as I've been reading through this compendium of brilliance, and I mean that with sincerity, I'm thinking, okay, I understand that Michelle, and she's very humble, represents all the amazing staff members and educators in our community. But in a particular way, I wanted to emphasize that because what she said in her speech, which captured my attention, I just said I'm coming tomorrow. It wasn't like there was a lot of notice. And she was able to share with me like an 8-year history of what that student voice within that student program actually is. And as I've been reading this, as I said, it is so amazing. The last comment I want to make specifically about the committees is even though all of them flowing from our strategic directions are very important, I want to emphasize the significance of the Access to Excellence Committee, just to be clear with you, because we've talked about it, but with our community who's here, as well as those who might listen at another time, is the Access to Excellence Committee, in my view, is not simply an advisory committee. Advisory committees are very important, but it's not just that. I'm calling it a design and engagement committee. And the reason I'm calling it that is because the process will take us where we may not even know, as long as we honor the fact that we're bringing together stakeholders who will represent thousands of people outside of the room. And the goal is not to just bring your own ideas to the table, but actually be willing to then go out to the people that you represent in our community and hear deeply what's being said and bring that back. And then we design the next phase based upon what we learn. Why are we doing this? And I think it's most important if I go back to that report because it's so important. Throughout this last year and a bit that I've been here with you, listening closely to our strategic directions process, listening to people at our mics, our union colleagues have shared explicitly what's most important. What I came to terms with pretty quickly in a great way is there's a lot of agreement in this community regarding what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. When we speak about social emotional supports, nobody's arguing with the importance of counselors and nurses. When we're thinking about supporting access to the arts and reading specialists and intervention specialists, for example, so our kids can succeed, nobody's arguing with that. When we speak about how we compensate our staff, it was right in that report. Nobody's arguing with that. Those are all important points that we need to continue the exemplary standard in the San Ramon Valley. The challenge is we do have a revenue issue. And we need to figure out creative ways to do that. And I'm grateful to hear tonight that our colleagues are interested in supporting that together, because that's the only way we're going to do this. And I will say as gently as I can that I promise that there will be no narrative perpetuated by this senior team. Staff should work for no compensation. That's just not going to happen. However, there are challenges and we have to work through those challenges and we're committed to it. But it's not just a challenge. I will share with you as I close that in a previous space and place, what I learned about this design engagement model is that we have to let go of a little bit of control so it can go to where it needs to go. We also have to maybe let go of a little bit of history, even if that history is real and valid, because it could stop where we need to go. But if we truly honor that process of working collaboratively together and co-design something, I think we can get to a pretty good place. The trouble is we need a little bit of time to get there. So I think we've come to some agreement regarding what's most important. I think we've got some challenges on how we will fund it. I think our community can come together around it. I look forward to the work that all the committees do, but in particular, I wanted to emphasize the Access to Excellence Committee because I think it's a little bit different than what we normally speak about when we say committee. So thank you for your indulgence at the end of a meeting, but I was appreciating the opportunity to share some of those thoughts.
Yeah, no, thank you for clarifying and summarizing, especially for the Access to Excellence Committee. So, okay. Is there anything else? If nothing, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:37. Thank you.